In today's Farm Report, the debate over genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, continues. Jim Sulphur with the University of Minnesota Extension Service Office has more.
It's been fun over the last 10 years or so listening to the GMO debate that's been happening, and there seems to be a fair amount of passion on both sides. And there was a good recent article written talking about the GMO debate and how we should maybe framing it. And of course, this is kind of from an ag standpoint, but really not. I thought this person made some really good comments or some thoughts. First of all, her comment was, I think we need to take off the table that GMOs are dangerous to eat. They're very, very well researched. All of these products that are coming on the market are probably some of the most researched products that have ever been done from a human safety standpoint. It's a little bit like the BST argument, which we may or may not consider a GMO, but those have been extremely well researched. And so is it impossible to say that nothing could happen? No, it's always impossible to say that. But I will tell you that I feel much safer eating any kind of GMO food than I do getting in my car every morning and going down the road. There's a lot of other risks that we take in our life, but the risk is so infinitesimal. I think we can almost take that off the table. Having said that, that safety is not an issue. That doesn't necessarily mean that maybe we shouldn't consider labeling it. As a rule, ag groups are very anti-labeling, but we label, pick up a food label once and look at what's on that label once. We label it whether it's orange juice from concentrate. We label it because it may have been made in a factory where possible peanuts have been made. We label the amount of salt on an ingredient. We put lots of ingredients on labels that have nothing to do with whether that food's safe or affects food safety or not. And I think, we just need to become maybe a little more transparent with our consumers. And I think we tend to overblow the risk that, nobody's going to buy them if they contain GMOs. I don't know if that's necessarily true. Maybe it's just that consumers want to know whether it's in there or not. I think another thing we need to think about is some of the proponents argue, GMOs aren't legal in Europe because they think it's a bad thing. I heard a speaker once that say, no, it's not that Europe is anti-science or they believe GMOs are a bad thing. They just didn't want to hook their pony to the wagon where they were tied to companies that with all these licensing fees with GMOs. So I think there's lots of different reasons people are for or against products, and it may have nothing to do whether we believe the science or we think that product is safe. So I think when we hear people anti or for something, we really need to be thinking about what's their motivation. And it may not be that they're anti-science or anti-technology. There may be some reasons that are completely unrelated to that, and maybe we need to address those issues as we go forward. This has been Jim Sulphur with the University of Minnesota Extension in St. Cloud.
The EPA is giving an extra month for stakeholders to comment on its proposed update to its corn rootworm insect resistance management program, which is intended to delay the pest becoming resistant to corn genetically engineered to produce Bt pesticides. The comment period was extended to April 15th from the original date of Monday. Many times it may seem like agriculture is one of those areas that many people just don't understand. But as Jim Sulphur with the University of Minnesota Extension Service Office explains, that's why it's important for producers to educate the public.
As I work in agricultural circles, I often hear comments about how consumers don't understand, or a lot of people in agriculture get really frustrated, whether it's GMO comments and they just don't get it, or it's animal welfare comments and they've never grown up on a farm and they don't understand us, and all these negative comments. And once in a while you hear a comment that, these consumers aren't very intelligent. And I used to kind of be in that camp, but I've changed pretty much 360 degrees. I really think that that's not the situation. And part of what changed my mind is just thinking about myself as a consumer. I've got a couple of brother-in-laws or a couple of nephews that are very involved in computer. One works for eBay. At one time, he worked for Google, and so these are very smart nephews that I've got. A number of them are really intelligent, and I do ask them a lot of computer questions, and they address them, even though as I'm interacting with them, it's apparent that I'm not very intelligent in the computer business, and a lot will be about software, and it'll be about different operating systems, and I maybe make decisions very differently than they might make decisions. For example, they really like Linux operating systems, and they've got a whole long list of reasons, and I fully believe what they're saying, but I use Windows operating system because for me that's what the university uses, and they have reasons that Windows has this issue or that issue. So I guess the reason I've switched is I'm not necessarily a very smart consumer when it comes to computers, either hardware or software. And it's not that I'm stupid. It's just that it's not on my priority list, and I use the best information available at the time to make a decision that I made. And I think that's the way we have to approach consumers. They're just using all the information that they have to filter through, and they're trying to make the best decision that they can. So I think it really is our responsibility in agriculture to really be as transparent as we can and try to educate them. And what I mean by transparent is just, I think, really be upfront with them. I don't think we want to get in a battle with them and make it either or. I think what we really need to do is try and educate them, because that's really what they want, and they want to make good educated decisions, and they're trying to make good educated decisions. So next time you get in a conversation with a consumer, let's not belittle them or think, boy, they're not very smart. Let's just really try and answer their questions, because they really have serious questions that they want to answer, and they're just like all the rest of us when we're purchasing something, just really trying to make the best decisions that they can on that particular product. This has been Jim Selfer with the University of Minnesota Extension in St. Cloud.
At a House Appropriations panel, the Agriculture Department official in charge of nutrition programs facing some criticism from lawmakers about the USDA's school meal nutrition standards. Some lawmakers saying that many schools can't meet them.
Our full goal is to make this work.
Undersecretary of Agriculture Kevin Concanon says studies show 93% of the nation's schools are meeting the standards.
We haven't given up on those 6 or 7% that are still struggling with it. We're always open to hear from schools to say, what can we do differently?
And he said schools having trouble meeting the standards are not being threatened or punished, but are being helped, and more help may be on the way. The Team Up program, once a limited pilot, is going nationwide. And the idea?
Team up a school similarly sized that is meeting the program with a similarly sized school
that's having trouble, each learning from the other. One limitation many small schools have, though, is lack of adequate kitchen equipment. And he said USDA is proposing in next year's budget more money to help schools get that equipment. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Washington.